So, hello everyone, bonjour. Je vais parler français, mais je préfère faire en anglais. Okay. Donc, hello everyone, and welcome to the keynote of Riviera Dev Conference. I am very excited to be here today because last year, when I started to do public speaking for the first time in DevOps Belgium, I really couldn't imagine that one day I can become a keynote speaker. So because of that, I am so excited. And today, I am here to talk about one of the most important and, let's say, difficult to solve problems that we have in the tech industry for many years, the diversity. My name is Poone, and I'm working as SRE at Keynote. It's been 3 years that I'm in the industry, and besides that, since last year, I'm doing public speaking, mostly about diversity. It's my favorite topic. And sometimes I do mentoring as well. And about Keynote, Keynote is an ad tech company which is based in France, and it connects the retailers and the advertisers, and at the same time, it customizes the advertisement for the users. So let's start. When I was a kid, at the age of 10, 11, I really dreamed of becoming a pilot. Yes, pilot. I was immersed by the idea of being able to fly. But I remember that it was not a common job, specifically for a girl, and more specifically, in the country where I was born, Iran. I remember that everyone asked me, but why? They reacted very weirdly, and they always just asked me, where does it come from? Why do you think that you can become a pilot? And I just explained them how I was impressed by my favorite book, Le Petit Prince, and its writer, who was himself a pilot. At that time, as a child, I could not understand why people react differently to different jobs. And unlike the dreams, in the real world, the jobs can have limitations when you are a girl. This was the first time, at least the first time that I can remember, that I felt that it's not the fact that always everyone wants to motivate or encourage me to become what I like. And then I grew up, and in the high school, somehow I accepted that becoming a pilot was not a good idea, because even I remember very well that I did some researches by myself. I found very few women, I would say less than 10 women who were at that time an active pilot in Iran. So I said that, okay, I will go with my plan B. I will study engineering to go and work for NASA. But at that time, I was studying in a single-gender school because, to be honest, we don't have any other option in Iran. So I was studying with all the girls. And I remember very well that I was surrounded by the girls who mostly wanted to become a doctor, a dentist, and sometimes a lawyer. And even our schools were encouraging us to study those fields, but not engineering. Meanwhile, I was sitting there and saying, no thanks, I don't like these jobs. I love mathematics, I love problem solving, and I am damn good at it. Now in Iran, when we want to go to the university at the age of 18, we have a universal exam, which we call it exactly concours, that it's like very competitive competition among, I would say, 500,000 students each year to just get to the public universities. And me, like the other students, I studied around 10, 12 hours per day for 1 year to get accepted to the public universities. And fortunately, at the end, I could. So I got accepted in one of the best universities in Iran to study computer engineering. But at that time, my school and my teachers, they were super hyped about those girls who got accepted in medicine, dentistry, and even I remember that they did some banners for them, and they just didn't mention us. They didn't care about us. So this was another time, at the age of 18, that I found that no one wants to really encourage or motivate me to become an engineer. But anyway, I started to study computer engineering. But wait, after passing whole of my school years, in the single gender school, I ended up in a class with many boys and very, very few girls. And I was wondering where the other girls. Did I make any wrong decision? And I remember that for me it was difficult and complicated to believe that I am still good at mathematics, even comparing to the guys. Because there was a very strong cliche that I think it is existing. I heard it once in one conference. And I think it's worldwide, it's just not about Iran. That everyone, even our teachers, who were somehow responsible to just motivate us, they were always saying that the boys are better than the girls in mathematics. And the girls are better than the boys in something else, let's say social skills, which I didn't care because I was good at mathematics. But anyway, it's really affecting my mind and my self-image that at that age, I couldn't imagine that I can compete with the boys in solving the problems in mathematics or anything. So then I immigrated to study my master in France in network engineering and internet architecture. Before that, I was really expecting and hoping for lots of changes in my new destination. And to be honest, France and Iran are not only two different countries, they are two different worlds. So here, women in France are well advanced in getting their rights, and they have this liberty to just get their rights. But still, I was missing something. The women were not around me. During my master, I remember that it was even more difficult to prove myself to the others. Maybe you are asking why I need to prove myself to the others. Because the fact is that when you are a girl, you study engineering among many boys, normally you need to get that validation feeling from the outside. And most of the time, the outside means the guys. So I needed that, specifically because I was an immigrant. But because of the new language, because of the new culture, it was even more complicated. And as a general thing, whenever we wanted to do a team project in France during my master, the teams were mostly something like this. So many boys, no girl. Normally we had two different options. Either we created our own team, so by our own self, or it was something completely random. In the first occasion, normally it was like a group of girls, the rest of the students, and it was not bad. But to be honest, I didn't want to do every time the project with the same team. In the second occasion, when it was randomly, we had the chance to work with the others. Once I was doing a project with a group like this, many boys, it was only me. And because they were kind of lone wolves who wanted to do everything by their own selves, that now that I am an adult, I can completely understand them because they couldn't believe that a girl can be a good engineer as well. So we didn't have any meeting, believe it or not. We didn't organize for any progress. They just directly implemented that project. And they didn't even talk to me. I was completely out of that project because of lack of the communication. And maybe more sadly, my professor told me that maybe I can change a topic for you so you can do it by your own self, lonely. But I was asking myself that, did I complain about any complexity or any difficulty? This was another time, a big stop. At the age of 24, when I was an adult, that I found it is very difficult to convince people that I am a good engineer as well. Long story short, I got my master. I did my internship for the first time in France in Nokia Bell Labs as a researcher. Then I joined a startup in their network and infrastructure team. And now since 2 years ago, I'm working in Credo as software reliability engineer. During my first experience in Nokia, I was working in a team of 9-10 researchers, and I had one woman as my colleague. Then I joined that startup. I was working with 6 or 7 other engineers from infrastructure and security team. It was only me. I left that company. I think until now they don't have any other girl in their team. And now I'm working in Credo with 8 other great, fantastic, and nice engineers who are all surprisingly the guys. So this was my journey, an introduction to talk about the diversity, but from my point of view, because I am a woman, I cannot talk about the other minorities. First, when I decided for the first time to talk about this topic, it was last year, I was thinking that there are many talks about diversity. It can be very repetitive, but they are not very coming from the engineers, the women engineers themselves. Because what I believe is that our stories are unique. Our stories, it can even at least just influence one person, but it is important because it is coming from our lived experience. So maybe the most important question is that, why diversity is important? Diversity is important because when we have a team of people coming from different experiences, various point of views, different backgrounds, of course we will have more creativity. Then we will have more innovative products, which is great. But also, everyone in this world, not only us who are working in the tech industry, but everyone, from the time that we wake up until the time that we go to the bed, we use hundreds of applications and the tech products. So of course, most of the things that we design should get fitted to whole of the society. We need to have the representative of the minorities because we want to understand their needs as well. There are hundreds of examples of the big names that they just launched the products which was not fitting well for the minorities. They didn't work for colored people. They didn't work for people with disability. Even they didn't work for the women. Women are half of the society. But also, the diversity is not important because then we can have great products, great teams, or even great companies. The diversity is important because we can have better society. Thanks to diversity, we can have a society which offers equal opportunities to everyone. But the next question, is the situation that bad that we need to talk about it again and again? Well, the answer is yes, the situation is that bad. Just look at this graph, which is coming from McKinsey based on the data, which was collected among 1 million European tech workforce in 27 European countries in 2022. And as you can see, only 22% of the workforce are women in the tech. But then, another research just showed us that it is based on 2021, that in general, the representation of women in the workforce is around 50% in most of the European countries, in Australia, in US, which means that the women nowadays are active enough to have half of the jobs in the society. But when it comes to the tech industry, it reduces to around 20%. It is really a huge difference. But do you think that it is not because of this fact that the tech industry is not welcoming enough for the women? But even within the tech industry, we have different gender parity percentage. So this is again based on the research that McKinsey did in 2022 on 1 million profiles. As you can see, in DevOps and SRE, among 100 engineers, we have only 8 women engineers. I confirm. But when it goes to product design, management, data engineering, analytics, it's much better. Maybe it is because we have lots of stereotypes, cliches, images, that even we define who should work in infrastructure department, then of course the other people will not get attracted to that department. But today, I am not here to only talk about the numbers, the statistics, or the graphs. I am certainly sure that if a person cares about diversity, he or she knows how is the situation. By just looking around, we understand it. Today, I am here to talk about the emotions, the feelings. Today, I am here to be the representative of that girl who couldn't just reach her dream. Because I really don't want to have the same thing for the next generation. But then I was thinking that I am coming from a Middle Eastern country. Let's say it's another word. And also, I don't speak English nor French in a native way. So maybe it's because of my profile that sometimes I face some challenges. So because I didn't want to make my talks very personal about myself, I started to have some conversation with my other colleagues. So I did conversation with around 15 women from different backgrounds who are all working as an engineer in the tech industry. And now I want to ask you to just read their phrases because it's coming directly from the conversation that I made with them, and I didn't change even any word. Let's just try to imagine how they were feeling when they're saying these things. Thank you. So I like this silence because I think it really opens the mind. So let's talk about the challenges. When you are a minority, normally you are getting the most difficult passes. So it's like doing bouldering in salon that normally you want to achieve the same thing, but you have different passes, of course. You have the red one, the black one, the green one, and you get trained for getting the most difficult one. But when you are a minority, normally you are forced to get one of those most difficult ones without even having any training. You want to achieve the same thing as the others, but the path and the journey is different. I am talking about feeling of isolation, fear, and doubt. Most of the girls and women, when they start to study in the university, they might think that they are alone because of the underrepresentation of the women. They feel isolated, they have fear, and they don't have even that community to talk about. They doubt about their skills, even they doubt about their decision, that was it true that they wanted to become an engineer? And it's because of that there is some statistics that shows that the girls just not finish their degrees when they start to computer engineering much more than the boys. And they just go to another fields like business or I don't know. And because of this isolation feeling, of course, it affected their self-confidence. Meaning that they even experience imposter syndrome, which is a syndrome that you might think that you are in your job, in your position, not because of your skills, but just because of any other reason. And then you will have low self-confidence again. So it's like an infinite loop. And don't get it wrong, I don't say that it doesn't happen for the men. Of course it can happen for everyone, because tech is really fast, so sometimes you just feel lost. But it happens more for the women. And then, because of this lack of self-confidence, sometimes women think that they are asking stupid questions. They don't ask their questions because they have this fear that their colleagues, who are mostly the men, will doubt about them. They express less. They don't say their comments. And of course, they negotiate less for their promotion or for their salaries. And then even sometimes they are known as a shy person because they didn't just say anything. And it happens again and again, specifically in the first years that they start to work, that sometimes the discussion comes, they want to say something, they want to ask something, and they just hesitate and it's just over and they didn't say anything. And of course, you cannot become someone that you've never seen. This is about the role models. From the time that we are a child until the time that we are an adult, and even in our work environment, we need to have some role models. So maybe as the man, you didn't feel it that much because they are existing for you. Just think about the big names in technology, how many of them are men? And of course, I agree that there are many successful women in the tech industry that we can go search on Google. There are many big names, but they are not just close to us. In the circle that you are working day by day, you cannot find them in the high position engineering or in high position management. And this is about lack of role model, that sometimes even women try to just quit the industry to change their track because they cannot just feel related or feel belonging to the tech companies or tech industry. And it is even proved by the statistics that women quit more than the men in the first 10 years of their working. Recently, I was just looking at my Twitter. I was like wasting my time. But I found a tweet which was really affected me because it was this. So a girl said that this time, again, I'm alone in my classroom. And then she mentioned that she's studying computer engineering. Okay, I was like feeling related to that girl and I wanted to say something, but then I opened the replies. The first reply was, but no worries, you will find job easier. And guess what? It was a guy who said that. So it is about the positive discrimination because most of the time we think that the first victim of positive discrimination are men. But that's not true. The first victim are the women. Most of the women who are working in the tech industry, they've heard at least once that the tech companies need to have more diversity. They need to have more women. They are changing their policies. And guess what? We are hearing it from our men colleagues. So of course it can change our self-image. Sometimes we think that we are in our position or we just get hired because the company needed to have more women. The policies are not that clear to understand that it is not the fact that if you are a woman, then you are hired directly. And if it is the policy, I ask you to just change it because it's not the thing that based on this we can change diversity or we can bring more diversity in our companies. But the situation is not that good. We cannot compensate it very fast because even the number of girls who are graduating from computer science is much less than the thing that we can compensate this gap very soon. But it's like day-to-day thing that we can have like a little commitments or little changes day by day to improve very gradually the situation. What we can do? So, first of all, we need to enjoy and share. Me personally, most of the women that I know, they are really enjoying to work in tech environment. So although there are lots of challenges, but we are enjoying. It's like very innovative job. We have problem solving. We are even very well paid, and we can even work sometimes remotely. So why not working in this environment? Let's just share it. The first thing is that we need to just shout loudly that we are existing. So if you are coming from minority, not only the women, I'm talking about women because I am a woman, but if you are coming from the minorities, let's just shout it loudly to tell the others that you are existing. Because it can completely change the images that we have from the tech industry, and then of course more people will think that the tech industry is welcoming for everyone. And also, Generation Z and even our generation is spending lots of time on social media. So why not try to start from social media to just show them how it is to work at tech company. Just like by some post on Instagram, some post on LinkedIn, of course, we can just show them how is the culture. Even by doing some podcasts, we can just put a spotlight on those people who are coming from minorities to just change the stereotypes, to say that it is not needed that everyone who is working at a tech company should love video games. But also, of course, we can have some workshops, some boot camps, because I'm sure most of the companies have this capacity. Specifically, if it is dedicated to the minorities, for example, to the girls, then not only we will teach them how to code, but also we will show them that the role models are existing by having the coaches who are themselves the women. So maybe in the future, they just dream about becoming a developer. But even more important than that, we need to support and encourage. The problem is not only about attracting more girls or more women. It is also about how to retain them, how to keep them, how to reduce that percentage of women who just quit the tech industry because they didn't feel belonging. So we need to support them. Let's start by recruitment. Believe it or not, the job annonces are still written in a very, very masculine-based way. What does it mean? So you just open the LinkedIn, you go and find a job that you want, and if you're a man, you think that you have almost half of the skills that they need, most probably you click on that apply button because you want to just try it. When it comes to a woman, the same job announce, if they don't have almost 20% of those skills, so they have almost 80%, they won't apply. So if we want to increase the chance to have more women candidates in our hiring process, we need to redesign and rethink about the job annonces. I'm sure it is very easy using ChatGPT to write the job annonces which are not very biased. And also, not only me, I talk with the other people, even my men colleague, we've seen very few women when they were interviewed to get to the tech companies. So most of the time, the HR person is like a woman, but then when we go to the technical side, we don't find many women. I mean, there are existing, but there are very few. And this is important because maybe for the company, it's not that important because they will find the candidate at the end. But just imagine that candidate is coming from the minorities. He just comes through your process, and all the time he sees the engineers, who are the guys, who are the blonde guys, and then they cannot imagine that they can work in that company because they cannot feel related. So why not just motivate our women colleagues, our colleagues who are coming from minorities, to show up in the hiring process, in the interview process, to show the others that they are existing, you can come and you can enjoy as well. And also, what we do at Krito, and we are very happy about it, and I encourage you to do it as well if you have this capacity, is a program which we call it Voyageur. So it's like a discovery. So everyone from any department can go from 2 weeks to 3 months to another department to just discover it or even help them to finish their project. It is a great opportunity for everyone because you just don't get bored from your team, but also it is wonderful for those minorities, or let's say those women, who were always working in the tech companies, but not in the tech roles. They were always close to tech products, but most of the time they think that the engineers are doing magic or they are genius, which is true, but they can become genius as well. So maybe just by giving this opportunity to them to just discover, even for 2 weeks, they will understand that it's a skill. They can improve it in themselves as well. So then maybe they just get motivated to go and just follow some boot camps, workshops, and come back to your company. This time, rejoin your company as a fresh junior engineer. By this way, you not only increase maybe the diversity, but also you are doing good things to everyone in your company to just give them this opportunity to discover. These were all the things that I wanted to share today, because what I believe is that the tech companies and the people who are working in the tech companies can have very, very significant role in changing the future. We can change the future, at least for the next generation, to just have more girls who dream about becoming a developer, not only the fashion model, which that is great as well, but we don't need that much models. We need more developers maybe. And also, let's shape the future together. And I want to just say one thing, that I am coming from Iran, and in Iran, it's not just recently, but all the time, women are fighting for their basic rights, for their freedom. And here, we are talking about the subjects which are more important. So if we can have this capacity, let's just use it. I am very proud about those women because they are fighting, but I am proud about France as well, which has this capacity to just give everyone this opportunity to just be more brilliant. Thanks for your attention, and if you want to just connect me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and also recently I started to write some articles on Medium specifically about public speaking, so just let's be connected. Thank you so much.